I did a full circle head motion, Queen Latifah style, trying to lighten the mood. Or perhaps I'll get 2 twin beds and we can push them together during our lovemaking. I don't mean to sound like a clock, but what fucking time is it? Hannah asked. For once, Hannah was worried about time, and she was right. That's impressive, Hannah, I told her. You've really stepped up your game since we got here. Thanks, Chelsea. I'm trying to pull my own weight around here. I can see that, I reassured her. Me too, Molly agreed. Molly and I went back to our room and changed out of our sweaty clothes. We all met in front of the lodge and hopped in the Jeep with Z and Sparks. We drove around the reserve and through the delta and ended up at an ancient tree. That Z told us was over 5,000 years old. Z told us that in Setswana, which is the original language of Botswana, the tree was called the baobab tree, which meant the tree of life. And if we all touched the tree at the same time, our lives would be filled with love and happiness, and we would be bound together forever. Upon hearing this, Simone opted out of the photo and offered to take it instead. I don't know if I want to be bonded with you guys for life. I continued to keep a healthy distance from Rex when we got to the boat and chose to sit at the front after I'd seen him take a seat in the back. Again, the water was crystal clear. Z told us the ecosystem is so clean here, you can drink the water, so we all did. The water was filled with tall grass and lily pads and tons of different flowers. Sue sighed gleefully, as people who love birds tend to do, and she asked Shelley to point out each species of bird we were seeing. Using a bird book they had bought at the first camp, the two of them had become fanatical about identifying everything they'd seen. They remind me of the couple on their honeymoon at Camp Melendolosi who journaled every night. They would be the type of people to become mesmerized by birds, just like the type of people who go snorkeling and then want to sit around all day identifying the marine life they saw. Speaking of marine life, I once traveled to Buenos Aires with an ex-boyfriend and a gay couple. The 4 of us spent an entire dinner conversation discussing the extinction of caviar until, in an attempt to end it, I proposed the notion of a marine gynecologist going in and harvesting sturgeon eggs so that the fish wouldn't have to lose their lives so violently. There's no reason marine biology shouldn't also include marine gynecology. What fish wouldn't be willing to get into stirrups as an alternative to being killed for its ovarian production? What I thought was a very astute proposition was met with looks of concern, which, as always, only made me talk even more to convince them I was actually smarter than I seemed. Think about it, I told them with an emphasis on it. If the world, or rather the sea, was open to this kind of progressive underwater thinking, can you imagine how many fish could be saved from ovarian cancer? Back at the lily pond in Botswana, after everyone was done testing the water we were floating in, I decided to add my 2 cents. Hannah and Sparks had developed their own relationship and were at the back of the boat together when she suggested we all smoke a joint, making it one of the nicest boat rides I've ever been on. After dinner that night, we gathered around the fire and watched all the women who worked at the camp come out in traditional African garb and perform one African dance number after another. It was a beautiful thing to see, and Sue, of course, was the first one to join them on the sand dance floor. Rex was in bad shape and couldn't form a sentence. He got up several times only to fall back into the seat he had tried to get up from. "Maybe now's the time to make your move, Chels," Hannah said, observing him. I asked Molly if I was that bad when I was drunk. "No," Molly reassured me. "You can at least walk. You slur and sometimes get cross-eyed, but you can get from point A to point B." Shelley and Simone ended up carrying Rex back to their room and locking him in the little bedroom that was off theirs. Apparently he kept trying to escape with loud grunts and banging on the door, but Simone and Shelley decided to leave him in there so he could pass out. That morning, when they did open the door, he was lying on the floor next to the bed, naked. June 30th, Saturday. "Rex, do you have diarrhea?" Sue asked him, touching his knee. "I have some pills for that," Molly offered. "I can go back to my room and get them." "I've got a tampon," Sue offered him. Not to sound cocky, I interjected as I lotioned myself up. But I firmly believe that if I lived during a time when moisturizer hadn't been introduced to society, I would invent it. "I'm so fat," Hannah grumbled. "We should see if the next camp offers a juice cleanse." Hannah is not fat. In my professional opinion, she borders on malnutrition. It's annoying to people who are actually struggling with their weight when a skinny girl loses weight on a juice cleanse. I have never once lost a pound on a juice cleanse. In fact, I have done 2 juice cleanses and both times gained 3 pounds. Not to sound like a nutritionist, but in my estimation, there should be stricter instructions for detoxing. Not eating a half pound of prosciutto and a ball of fresh mozzarella would be helpful information to include in a pamphlet. That is, if these juice biologists are really serious about their clients losing weight. I'm not joking about an adult obesity camp somewhere with adult dodgeball, Sue announced. Fat camps usually have a lot of fat people, though, Hannah noted. That's the point, Hannah. Think about how easy it would be to hit a person at a fat camp. We'd be the thinnest ones there, and we'd become dodgeball champions. "A fat camp sounds awful," Molly commented. "I'd rather have high tea and learn a wind instrument." We got 2-hour bush breakfast that morning just in time for me to use the restroom. Our discussion returned to the topic of twin beds. "Twin beds with mosquito nets. Very lush," I said. "I've always wanted to sleep in a twin. I love twin beds. I always wanted one when I was a child." "I don't understand this obsession you have with twin beds. Didn't you have a twin bed growing up?" Molly asked. "For a bit, but I mostly had a king. I stole my parents' mattress off their bed frame and switched my twin out." "Without the bed frame?" Sue asked. "I don't think that's really the point of the story," Molly stated. I answered what I thought was a valid question from Sue. "Yes, without the frame. It was after the 3rd or 4th time my parents forgot to pick me up from Hebrew school. I had it. It took me almost 2 hours to walk home, and when I got there, I marched straight upstairs and switched out my mattress with theirs." "How old were you?" asked Sue. "You can be very strong when you're determined," I reassured her. "I was 9. "And what did your parents do?" "Nothing," Simone told them. "Everyone was scared of Chelsea. My mom just started sleeping on the twin, and my dad just slept on the couch. I don't think anyone even mentioned it. It's not like it was a total convenience for me, I added. The king took up almost my entire bedroom. I couldn't even open my door all the way before it hit the mattress. We went for another ride and saw a bunch of animals that we had already seen before, but in another setting. So the morning trip was pleasant. We also saw a lion walking with a dead impala in his mouth, which prompted Shelley to remind Z that we still hadn't seen a live kill. Hopefully later tonight. It doesn't look like anything's happening right now, Z told us. It doesn't just happen when you want it to, Rex chimed in. When we got back to the lodge, I got out of the Jeep and was walking on the wooden ramp that led to the main dock when I saw it. Snit, 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 snake! I yelled and ran as fast as I could up the bridge, grabbing Simone along with me to the closest wall. Once there, I smacked her across the face. Then I backed up against the wall and wrapped my arms around her body, pinning it against mine. Simone is well-versed in my histrionics and knows what happens when I see a snake. She barely flinched when I smacked her. Rex was looking at me cross-eyed. This is coming from the same person who wanted to get stampeded by an elephant a week ago. Snake! I yelled at the top of my lungs and lunged onto the ramp that led to the deck of the camp. You're going to have to get rid of the snake, Simone told everyone who had stopped in their tracks, wondering if I was serious. You're in Africa, one of the Africans working at the camp said with a big smile on his face. He's just a little guy sunbathing. A little guy, I shouted from behind Simone. A little guy doesn't keep moving once their head is chopped off. Snakes are disgusting, and I wish they would all go die in a snowstorm. I fucking hate snakes, I told him. You don't understand, Simone told him. She'll go into anaphylactic shock. The man picked the snake up with a stick and threw him into the bushes, which sent me even more into a tizzy. Snakes in any form, big ones, little ones, thick or thin, in the air, on the ground, I don't know which is worse. They all make me sick to my stomach. I'd sooner go through with a pregnancy than spend a night alone in my house, knowing there was a snake in the yard. Once we recovered from that, we all gathered on the deck for our afternoon cocktails. I went to my room to change, and when I came back, I walked into this conversation. You have to understand my sister, Simone said. She's the biggest fuck-up of the family, but she's also the most successful. That can be very conflicting, plus she's the baby. This discussion held no interest for me, so I went over to Shelley and told her there was something stuck on the roof of my mouth. Well, do you think you burned it? Shelley asked me. Or do you think there's really something stuck? I feel like there's something lodged in there. I opened my mouth so Shelley could give me an oral examination. I see it. It looks like you may have poked yourself in the mouth. There's a little bump inside your mouth and it's very red. This conversation is riveting, Hannah proclaimed. I think you need to start traveling with a physician, Sue suggested. And a rabbi, Hannah added. Do you think it was one of those pretzels from Camp Dumbo? I queried. That was 3 days ago, Hannah said. Yeah, but it's been hurting ever since then. There must be something wrong with those pretzels, Shelley declared. I wish I could go to the bathroom, I announced. All I do is pee. Have you thought about an enema? Rex asked. No, because then I would have to get one too, Shelley replied. A dual enema, Sue concurred. The last time I had an enema, I slept for 3 days. I was too weak to even report the incident. We didn't end up going on our afternoon ride because we all needed to recover from the snake. I sat in my sister's arms shivering like the girl in the movie Jaws after she saw the shark. The next morning, Simone would be leaving, and the 5 of us and Rex would move on to Camp Mombo, which was also in Botswana. I needed to get as much snuggle time with her as possible. Later that night, we all went over to Sue and Hannah's room to lie in their twin beds before our last meal at Virumba. I looked at Sue, who was slathering on what appeared to be sunblock before dinner. "Is that sunblock?" I asked. "Yes, I'm putting some on in case I pass out outside tonight. Everyone else has made a mockery of themselves. I don't see why I can't take a turn." Dinner was pretty mellow, and when Molly and I got back to our room, we lay in bed discussing what an amazing trip we'd had. That was when we heard something outside trudging through water. Molly and I tiptoed over to the window, opened the glass door, and walked onto the deck. There was a hippo less than 10 feet in front of us, just taking a stroll in the middle of the night. It was amazing. For some reason, I was in front of Molly. She was gripping my body and practically choking me. "Don't you think you should be in front?" I asked her. "Probably." And then we changed positions. The next morning, we had all packed our bags and were having our last breakfast at Camp Virumba. "Chelsea, there's an entire pile of folded clothing on your bed. Did you want me to pack that?" Molly asked, sitting down at the table. "No, I was just going to leave it for the staff. It's not like I'm ever going to wear cargo pants again." "What makes you think the staff wants your used clothing?" Molly asked me. "Well, I don't really know the answer to that, but let me try and think of one. Oh, here's an idea. Maybe because they're all walking around with baskets on their heads?" "Well, we are in Africa," Sue said. "This is their lifestyle," Rex added. "It's not like they're walking around in cargo shorts either." "Okay," I exclaimed. "I'm so sorry that I'm trying to do something nice for someone." "Fine, Molly. We'll take the clothes. Maybe Chunk will want to wear them. Fuck, can I do anything right?" "Is there anything in the safe?" Molly asked me, going over my checklist. "Just my underwear, but we should probably leave it here." "I'll get it," Molly told me, and throw it in the garbage. We all got in our Jeep and went to the airport. Shelley informed us that Rex had requested to stay with her at Mombo Camp. "Of course he did," Sue replied. "You'll probably be the one to fuck him. Why have sex with any of the 5 straight women available when you can have sex with a lesbian?" At the airport, we had to say goodbye to Simone. We were all crying except Rex. He was more confused than when he had first met us. "Rex, while I'm gone, please explain to Chelsea one more time about the moon and the sun. She thinks they're one unit. Bye."